And welcome to the Industry 4 Community Podcast. I'm your host with Most Walker D. Reynolds, put on by 4.0 Solutions. It's just me this weekend. Actually, I was going to have Zach jump in here, but I have a long list of announcements, some strategic announcements to make. We didn't announce this live stream. I just decided to do it live for the community. So it's streaming to the 4.0 Solutions LinkedIn, or my LinkedIn, 4.0 Solutions YouTube, and to my personal X account. I got a bunch to go through, some pretty major announcements, stuff that I think the community would want to know. I'm going to go over a topic in LinkedIn and go over some YouTube questions. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat. I don't know who will join us if you watch this later. It's going to be a pretty important discussion. So I'm going to start off with what my future plans are. We had Mastermind this last Friday, and I'll actually tell a story about Mastermind here in a second. But we had Mastermind this last Friday, and I announced some of this in Mastermind to the students. But I wanted to go over a conversation I had with a member of the community, a really close friend of mine, actually, who is on the steering committee for the Prove It conference. And I'm going to talk about updates for Prove It. So I'm going to go over my plan going forward, some changes at 4.0 Solutions, some changes to the curriculum. We're going to talk about strategically, what are we doing in 2025. I'm going to talk about what my future plans are. And then on the announcement side, I'm going to talk a little bit about the MES Bootcamp Accelerator, what's going to be happening with the accelerator. So for those of you in Mastermind, those of you who are taking the MES Bootcamp Accelerator, I'm going to explain what that is later. Talk about how Mastermind is going to change. I'll actually cover that twice. I'll give you some Prove It updates, and then I'll wish you off with Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and Season's greetings. So for those of you joining, thanks for joining me on your Sunday afternoon. All right, let's get into what's going to change. All right, for me over here in the next couple of the next year or so. So first and foremost, at 4.0 Solutions, we're making some fairly drastic changes in 2025, specifically centered around curriculum. So for those of you who are in Mastermind know how it works. Those of you who are not in Mastermind, just so you're up to speed, basically the way it works. Mastermind is our flagship educational product that started in, I think, 2020. Essentially, I mean, I'll tell the story about where Mastermind actually came from. When we started producing YouTube content in 2018, my entire goal was to our engineers who worked at Intellic Integration were frustrated that they were having to solve the same problems over and over and over again every time a new manufacturer would hire us. At any given time, we'd have, say, 20 active projects across 10 to 15 clients. Okay. And it seemed like we were always getting brought in to solve the same issues. The vast majority of the work we were doing, we were coming behind another integrator, other OEMs, other vendors who had started manufacturers on their digital transformation journeys. Oftentimes we'd be coming in behind Deloitte. We'd be coming in behind McKinsey. We'd be coming in behind SAP. We'd be coming in behind Epicor. Lots and lots of vendor. I mean, a couple times we came in behind inductive automation. I mean, it's not, it's equal opportunity. Okay. I had observed in my career that manufacturers were making the exact same mistakes. We were seeing them 95% of the time. Manufacturers were starting their digital transformation journey. They were basically making three strategic mistakes. They were either starting with the wrong digital strategy or no digital strategy. They were starting with the wrong architecture or no architecture, and they were choosing the wrong partners. And what is the wrong partner? The wrong partner is a partner that comes from Industry 3 who didn't know how to do IT/OT convergence. Oftentimes they were IT companies. They were IT companies who were trying to do IT/OT convergence using IT principles. It actually doesn't work that way. It works the other way around. I hate to break the news to people, But digital transformation, the vast majority of architectures, the successful architectures, why unified namespace is so successful, has been adopted so widely globally. The vast majority of the architectures that are successful, they are OT architectures that are being applied to IT with some IT principles. So IT-OT convergence is actually most successful coming on the other side, coming from the OT up into the IT side. So when we started shooting YouTube content in 2018, it was to do two things. That's it. Okay. Number one, Zach Scriven who I had worked with and loved to death, had decided he didn't want to be an integrator anymore. Hey there, Cheryl. How you doing? He decided he didn't want to be an integrator anymore. And he had started a digital media company. He had hired me. He had asked me if I'd be interested in sponsoring his first podcast. I was the first guest. I said, yeah, I'd love to do it, man. Let's do it. And then I wanted to help him out. So I hired his company to do digital media for us. We had no idea what we were going to do. And he was just coming out and doing interviews with staff and he was just making content, posting on LinkedIn, that kind of stuff. The original deal was I wouldn't be on camera. Hey, Wagner Rodriguez, how you doing, buddy? The original deal was I wouldn't be on camera. What happened was, for 6 months, we were paying thousands of dollars a month for digital media. And my board of directors was really giving me a hard time. They were saying, hey, man, you're just basically wasting this money on your buddy, And what happened was Zach tricked me. And he was using a video editor based in the Philippines, and he set up a camera. He'd flown out from Phoenix. He was in our office here in Irving. He's like, hey, Walker, why don't you come out here? I've set up a tripod. He gave me a marker and he said, hey, my video editor in the Philippines doesn't know what we do. I want to ask you a couple of questions. Have you answer those questions so that you can explain to him what we do? So I was explaining fairly advanced technical concepts for somebody who was a layperson. Okay. Well, Zach's plan, I don't know if this was his plan all along, but after we shot those initial whiteboard videos where I look really fat, no mic, and I'm wearing a yellow turtleneck, he published one of those on LinkedIn that weekend, and it went viral. And we realized, oh, that's what's missing. So our focus pivoted to, okay, if we're going to educate, if Walker's going to go in front of the camera, he's going to get on a whiteboard. If we're going to educate, we promise that we're going to do three things. First and foremost, no matter what, we are going to tell the truth from our perspective, no matter whose feelings it hurts. First and foremost, we will not. I went to my board of directors and I said, listen, you guys know me. I cannot go on there and I'm not going to talk out of both sides of my mouth. I'm going to tell the fucking truth. Now, are you comfortable with that? It might hurt us. There might be clients that leave us. There might be vendors who don't want to work with us because I'm going to tell it like it is. Number two, we're going to talk about things that are relevant to success. We are not going to protect any trade secret or whatever that we use to be successful as a consulting firm digitally transforming manufacturers. Okay. And number three, we're not going to make it about me. Like, we're not going to make it about Walker. So our plan all along has always been, obviously it works with Walker in front of the whiteboard. It doesn't matter that Walker doesn't want to be on camera. Walker's going to go in front of the whiteboard. Obviously it works. And we will come up with some plan. Okay. So we started shooting educational content, and I just basically started telling, here's how we do it. Here's the things we observe. Manufacturers, stop doing this shit. Okay. Stop going to SAP and asking them to digitally transform you. Stop going to Rockwell Automation and asking them to digitally transform you. Stop going to Emerson. Stop going to Siemens. Okay. Stop going to Epicor. Stop hiring McKinsey. It's not saying don't work with those companies, but don't put them in charge of your digital transformation initiative. Here's how you need to be thinking. Digital strategy, minimum technical requirements, architecture. Okay. Thank you. It just comes through as LinkedIn user, so I don't know who said that, but he said it was certainly what was missing. It's been great to see the progress. In 2020, by 2020 we had built up like a huge community, much bigger than we ever thought. I'll tell you a little story. In 2018, Intellic Integration's business development strategy. How do I do business development? And anybody who works for any of my companies will tell you, we don't sell, we solve problems. You know, you've closed the sale when the client says, what are the next steps? Everything you do leading up to that point is about asking them about their problems and trying to connect their problem with a solution. Justin Dean, love you, brother. You've been around forever. My big track star there. Justin's was big track star in college. What we do is we talk about problems, and then we have conversations about solutions, and you've sold when the client says, what are the next steps? In 2018, our business development strategy was a 3-pronged strategy. We wanted to get 1/3 of our new business from existing clients. We wanted to get 1/3 of our new business from vendor and client referrals. And we wanted to get 1/3 of it cold. So we had a business development team that basically was tasked with finding the people who have the problems that we can solve. Okay. By 2020, by doing content and doing it the way we do it, that had pivoted to 95% inbound. We had 0 inbound leads. That is the opportunities at Intellic Integration. They were 0 inbound in 2018 other than referral, but nothing from media. 2020, it was 95%. Today, it's 100%. It's 100%. So there was a financial byproduct, which was never our intention. The intention was to educate. The intention was to help Zach. But because our values and our mission and everything was in the right place, the Lord delivered. Okay, for those of you who don't want to hear about my faith, I'm a faith-based guy. You know, I'm a vessel for Jesus. That's what I am. Okay. In 2020, this huge community said, hey, they recommended we do a mastermind. I think it was in September of 2019, or it was September of 2020. I don't remember I don't know if we've been doing this 3 or 4 years yet, 4.0 Solutions. We did a mastermind. It was an unbelievable success. Here's what we did. We said, how many people would actually do a mastermind? Okay, we think it's going to be 20 people will probably do it. And we calculated how much it would cost us to do a mastermind. Okay, we were like, oh, okay, to do a mastermind is going to cost us somewhere between $30,000 and $50,000 is what we would have to spend to put it on. So we took $30,000 to $50,000, divided it by 20 people, and that's what we charged for the mastermind. I mean, so all we were asking was the people who were going to do it would pay for it. We ended up with, thank you, Vaughn, September 2020. We ended up, I think, correct me if Zach is watching or whatever. By the way, I didn't tell Zach or Vaughn I'm doing this live stream, so they're probably like freaking out. What's going on? I only told Josh. I think we had 100 people do the mastermind. And the mastermind was such a huge success that they followed up by asking us to do it every once in a while. Zach and Vaughn said, hey, I think we should create a mastermind program and do it every month. And so 3 months later, in January of 2021, then it would have been, I gave Zach and Vaughn $20,000. I said, you have $20,000 of seed money. We're going to create 4.0 Solutions. We're going to create an online university. We're going to create Mastermind, and we're going to educate. And we're going to make that education as accessible to as many people as we possibly can. And Mastermind is the much more expensive product because it takes us, I can't tell you the amount of work that goes into putting on Mastermind. I wish we ought to shoot a behind the scenes video on it. And then we created the mentorship program, which was much less expensive because we were really only looking at like a 2-hour commitment per month, 3-hour commitment per month. And those were our first 2 products. And then we started doing workshops based on the students who all enjoy the free content on YouTube and on IIoT.University. We would do workshops based on their requests. And then we kind of transformed Mastermind into, that's the flagship product. If you are in Mastermind, you get every single educational thing we do. You and you can be on the advisory board. You can and lead the community. We created the Discord server, and it's grown into this huge thing. Okay, this is not my dream. I'm going to say this again. I hate being on camera. I do not like being on camera. I go on camera because I believe I have a responsibility to be on camera. We have an adversity and success YouTube channel. I shoot those videos. Every time I get in front of the camera, I say, I got to shoot a video. I remind myself I am teaching a lesson to my future, to my kids after I'm dead and my grandchildren. That's my motivation. I try to imagine that I'm gone and my grandkids have a question that they want to ask their grandfather and he's not here. And that channel is the answer. Let me make it perfectly clear. I don't want to do this. I don't want to be on camera. Okay. I'm a country kid who grew up in a trailer park, but I'm mission driven. All right. So everything I tell you about what my plans are under the context of everything I just told you. My goal is to be done educating and never shoot another video in Industry 4 ever again in 2026. That's my goal. My goal is I will shoot my farewell video sometime in 2026. And then the industry will never see me again. Okay. So I want to put that into context for you real quick, and then I'll tell you some of the major announcements. So we're putting on the Prove It conference, and the Prove It conference is going incredibly well. Let me, when I say this, we will change the industry this February. Conferences, as you know, everybody will go to Hanover Messe. Every person who goes to Prove It in February and then goes to Hanover Messe in April, a couple months later, will be disappointed at Hanover Messe. And Hanover Messe will have to change the way they put their conference on. I promise you, we will change the way conferences are done. Automation Fair will be done differently. What is it? SCADA. There's one that goes on in Chicago. That'll be done differently. I think what they do at Tulip and what we've adopted from Operations Calling at Tulip into Prove It, I think this is going to change the way conferences are done. We're over 60% manufacturers will be at that show, and they are there. They're going to be at Prove It over 3 days. They're going to see how digital transformation happens with 36 vendors all working on the same infrastructure building solutions. When you see what Dell does, it is going to blow your fucking mind. When you see what Google does, it is going to blow your fucking mind. When you see what Litmus does, it is going to blow your fucking mind. When you see what Siemens is going to do, it's going to blow your fucking mind. Every person there, all we're going to hear is this. Whoa. Whoa. Because I'm approving every single functional spec. My hands are on every piece of the technology. I am building the ERD for the database that everyone's using. Google has come, and I'm actually going to be doing a Prove It session using Google Cloud Services. The stack, the second half of my keynote address, is me doing the very first Prove It session of the entire week. And I'm going to be using, I don't know everything I'm going to use yet. I'm working on it right now, but I know for sure I'm going to be using Litmus Edge. I know for sure I'm going to be using HighByte. I know for sure that I'm going to be using Ignition. I know for sure I'm going to be using Google Cloud. And I'm hoping that I can do it through a Dell Native Edge deployment, a blueprint, because basically all those things are there. Okay. I Prove It is my number one focus right now. But I want to tell you, I want to read an exchange I had with a member of the steering committee who texted me, a close friend. He's in the industry. He owns one of the companies. He said, or he's a co-owner of one of the companies. And he sent me this. I didn't get permission to read this, so I'm not going to share his name. He said, "Hey, brother, was talking about you a bit on the back end of the steering committee today." So this was at the end of the steering committee meeting last week. On the back end of the steering committee meeting today, said, I'm not sure if the notes are going to get to you or not, but I thought I'd give you a quick recap of some thoughts. Josh, he's the conference administrator, and he runs 4.0 Solutions. He's my oldest son. Josh asked the group for our feelings on how the conference is set up for success. My initial gut feeling that I shared was that the success of the conference has nothing to do with the technical capabilities that are demonstrated. Rather, what the collective community learns and feels like they have ownership of at the end. My thoughts continued on that line with a focus of how can this conference succeed in its second year if Walker isn't presenting? Meaning, how does the community through this first year's event continue to gain ownership of the unified namespace and collectively ensure its evolution? Text-to-speech probably isn't doing me any justice here, but I figured I would just share with you where my head is at. Obviously, you have pushed and pushed and pushed and screamed from the rooftops that there is a better way. The fruit of that effort is now bearing, but I do believe that many are watching this event to see if this is your show or theirs. I know your heart. I'm excited to see others know you better too. And this live stream right here is me showing you my heart better at his urging. Okay. Here was my response to him. You're spot on. I'm constantly balancing my responsibility to lead against my desire to see the industry change course and then take over the reins itself. We've successfully transitioned the Discord server to community-led, and we are working on doing the same with IIoT.University. And this will go to some of the announcements I'm making. My plan is to drive the bus at Prove It for 2 years. 2 virtual factories in different verticals. Life sciences next year, and then transition the show to community-led. I am intentional in the way I take steps back. I have been intentional with not running Prove It, but rather setting the guardrails and expectations and then checking in with the team. I am intentional with how little I respond in Discord and on LinkedIn. The industry doesn't need a demagogue. It needs leadership to change climate so a new culture can form and grow organically. And the primary announcement here is that I believe that the industry is ready for that. I believe that my work is coming to an end. I believe my responsibility, I have lived up to my responsibility to the industry, and it's coming to an end. So to that end, here are some things that are going to change. Okay. And I'll tell you all what my plans are. So number one, we're going to be making some fairly major changes at 4.0 Solutions over the next year in 2025. I've already tested some of them here at the end of 2024. So curriculum-wise, we're going to be expanding our enterprise training. So I don't know if you guys have known this, but manufacturers hire 4.0 Solutions to do custom training solutions for their companies. So we've done several. I think we're doing our 4th, and it's a huge undertaking. It takes a year, and we've got to shoot custom videos and write the quizzes and all that stuff. We're doing one right now for one of the biggest companies in the world, where we're actually doing like a 3-prong, this 3-pronged approach where we have like an introduction, which applies to everybody. And then we have the intermediate level, and it's across 9 pillars of education. An example would be, what is IIoT? That's a pillar. And there'd be 3 videos associated with that: the intro, the intermediate, the advanced. And then we're testing at each level, and we're certifying people based on digital fluency. That's what we do in enterprise training. We originally did it for a large multinational who approached out to us. They have 150,000 employees globally. They had a subsidiary that had 40,000, and they said, let's test this. Will you build our own custom program for us? Will you do it for 40,000 employees? And we said yes. And so in the first year, we built that program. It was such a resounding success. And some of you have taken that program, because I can't believe the number of you who joined Mastermind after that, just from this one big multinational. It was such a huge success. They applied it to the parent company. And that was 150,000. And I think we did it in 5 languages or whatever. I don't remember all the details. They used my videos, but I didn't do the translations. And now we're doing another one where it's both me and Zach doing the filming. Okay. So we are going to expand enterprise training in 2025. You will hear us talk about that more for organizations that don't want people to join IIoT.University, or they want a more custom education experience around Industry 4 and now Industry 5. We are going to be doing our vendor training program. So what does that mean? We have already lined up vendors that we're going to be doing training for. For example, TatSoft's frameworks, we are going to be doing 3 levels of training. A vendor is going to come to us and they're going to say, we want the training for our product to be at IIoT.University. And we want it to augment the training we do with our customers. And so it's going to be 3 levels. It'll be this basic, you're going to be able to go to IIoT.University and you're going to be able to get your basic introductory training on that product at IIoT.University for free. You're going to be able to just go, and we're going to structure it in a way where our level of effort to build it is low enough where we can afford to just give it away. And then where there's going to be 2 additional levels. You'll have this intermediate level, and then you'll have this advanced level doing, power user type stuff. And that will all be hosted at IIoT.University, very similar to how we do enterprise training. Number 3, we're going to be changing the mastermind structure. Okay. We've already tested this and we know it works. So right now, the way Mastermind works is we do 1 session every month for 4 hours. The second Friday of every month, we do a 2 to 4 hour session that I lead. I've led every single Mastermind session since we started doing Mastermind in 2020. Okay, so that's 4 going on 5 years. And then we would throw in workshops based on what was being requested from the advisory board or the community. Well, we're going to change that. We are going to do a workshop every single quarter so that we have more time to develop the workshop, because it takes, when I did the MES bootcamp, I didn't fucking do anything for 3 months but that bootcamp. I had to write everything. I had to write every piece of code. It was all I did, and I had companies I needed to run. So it takes a long time to put on a workshop. That's why when you go to like a lunch and learn or you go to a webinar, they generally suck. The reason why is because the amount of work you have to put into real education is massive. We spend $1 million a year on IIoT.University. $1 million. $1 million. It is incredibly expensive. So what we are going to do is every quarter, there will be 2 regular mastermind sessions. So you'll have the normal 2 to 4 hour Friday session, second Friday of the month. And then there will be a single 2 or 3 day workshop the third month. So for example, in the first quarter of next year, we're doing the advanced unified namespace workshop in the month of January. So there is no mastermind session that month. The mastermind students are going to go to the workshop. And then in February, we'll have the regular meeting, which I'm actually doing live at Prove It. I'm doing the live mastermind session at Prove It on the 3rd day of the conference. And then in March, we will do a regular session. And then in the second quarter, April, May, or June, we don't know which month yet, we're going to do a workshop in one of those months and a regular session in the other 2 months. Okay. So the mastermind structure is changing. Also, my goal is to I'll do all the workshops, which will be 4 workshops. I'll do 4 workshops in 2025. I'm not promising that. We're going to be adding an educator, hopefully 2 educators. We've narrowed it down to 2 guys. We're going to re-interview those 2 guys. You know who the people are. You'll be very satisfied with who they are. And we are going to start training up another educator. And maybe that new educator will be ready to do a full-blown workshop by the end of next year, so that I won't do the last workshop maybe. But we will have that educator leading 1 or more of the actual mastermind sessions. So I will not do every mastermind session next year. And I may not do every workshop. Okay. So we are adding additional educators. We have already trialed an internship program, which we are using at 4.0 Solutions. We have 2 high school students who are both in a computer science track who have been at 4.0 Solutions for, I think, 3 months now. They are with us for the whole school year. Actually, their teacher actually just came and visited our office. It's a paid internship, and they are going through step 1 training. They're learning Python, and they're actually building solutions. They're actually taking demos that I've built, and I've said, I want to take these 8 demos that are in PyCharm here, and I want to put them into one package that we can give to our students, so that all they have to do is do a pull from GitHub, and then they'll run the application. When they run the main file, a pop-up will pop up and let them select from a series of demos that they want to run. And you guys have seen these demos many times, like the simulators that run unified, simulating unified namespace in a broker. We're using interns to help us build some of these solutions. We plan to parlay that to other integrators. We're partners with many integrators globally, and we plan on taking this internship program that we've created in our own organization and teach other integrators how to do it. Okay. We are going to be doing the integrator certification and partnership program. So I've been working on the curriculum. Integrators will have an opportunity to sign up. It's going to take 2 or 3 weeks to go through certification. So there's an education component, there's a testing component, and a certification component. And when that happens, those integrators are going to get the 4.0 Solutions stamp of approval, and they will become an integrator partner with 4.0 Solutions. And they'll be listed at IIoT.University, and they'll be listed on our website, and the whole world will know, hey, this is a 4.0 Solutions Industry 4 certified integrator, and we will publish what the criteria for certification is. So now what will happen is end users and OEMs will be able to see how they were tested. And that will be public. You will know what skill sets that they were tested on. You will know what challenges they had to overcome. I want to tell you something about Prove It real quick. Let me hit pause. One of the things that we're doing at Prove It, okay, this is no fucking joke. I want you to know the 36 vendors who have signed up for Prove It, and we ended up with, I don't know, Josh knows the exact number. Certainly more than, or Travis does too. Certainly 50 to 60 vendors reached out to us to sponsor Prove It. Of all the vendors, we reached out to 0. Every single vendor who's at Prove It reached out to us. There was no business development strategy for us to go out and say, hey, are you interested in sponsoring? Every single one reached out to us. We knew when we launched Prove It that Dell was going to support us because we met with them at Hanover Messe. And at Hanover Messe, they said, hey, if you ever put on a conference, we want to be a part of it. So we knew that if I announced it, Dell would be in our, Dell had already committed at Hanover Messe. But every vendor has reached out to us to be a part of Prove It. And this is the hardest conference they're ever participating in. We are intentionally making it hard. We are intentionally delaying the release of technology to them. We're not giving them documentation on every single thing. You know what? You want to know why? Because when you work with a client, that's what fucking happens. They deliver late. The documentation isn't always complete. And part of what I'm going to be able to say in the keynote is every single vendor here asked the right questions. Every single one of them. When you look up on the screen, we did not create an ideal environment for them to build what they're going to show you. We made conscious efforts. We listed, okay, we'll do the database, but we're going to deliver the database 3 weeks late, which we are. We actually delivered the database this week. It's actually 4 weeks late. We made a conscious effort. We intentionally released the OPC server with only a non-encrypted endpoint, specifically because I knew that Canary Labs doesn't connect to a non-encrypted endpoint. We made a conscious effort to make it hard on Canary Labs. Every single vendor is having to overcome challenges. Fast forward now to our integrator program. When OEMs, when end users, when they look at these certified integrators, they will know that they were put through the fucking ringer, that they didn't just get the stamp of approval. Right now, when you go online and you see somebody who's got their step 1 certification from 4.0 Solutions, that's fucking 10% of people. That's 10%. Do you know how many people have started out the step training? 800 and some, it's 5%. 800 and something people have started step one. We have 40 something certifications. 40 something. I remember when I went to Aviva Wonderwear training in Horsham, PA in like 2004, there were morons in that fucking room who got the same certificate I did. So it didn't mean that certificate wasn't worth the fucking paper it was written on. It meant nothing. It meant it could have meant I went to Horsham, PA and got drunk for a week, threw up in the trash can in the bathroom, slept during all the sessions. When you see somebody who's got a step one certificate, you know that motherfucker knows how to develop. You know that person can serve on my team. When you see our integrator certification, you will know that integrator isn't selling me a bill of goods. They know how to digitally transform an organization. Last but not least, my goal is to make 4.0 Solutions an employee-owned company by the end of 2025, just like I did with Intellic Integration. So my goal is that at the end of 2025, I will not be the owner of 4.0 Solutions. It will be an employee-owned company. And we got a lot of work to do. It's got to stand up on its own, so it doesn't need me. And then I'm going to sell it to the employees. Okay? And then my goal is to be done in 2026. A perfect scenario is I film my last video in the first quarter of 2026, and then I pivot to all of my new ventures. I'm not going anywhere in the industry. I'm still going to be in the industry, but I don't want to be on camera anymore. I didn't want to be on camera to begin with, and I don't think I need to be anymore. The Discord server has proved that. There's many people in the Discord server. I don't have to answer questions. Occasionally I do. It's rare. There are a lot of really, really gifted people who over the course of 3 or 4 years have, exponentially increased their digital fluency when it comes to Industry 4 in digital transformation. How many of those certified vendors and integrators will operate in the EU? I mean, one for sure. Galeris for sure. GIS. All right. So what am I going to be doing? So as you guys know, I own a company called FullStrength.ai that leverages technology we developed in manufacturing for performance athletes. We have 5 sponsored athletes, 3 professional strongmen, 2 amateurs that we sponsor every month. They're on contract. We go to shows all over the world. We've partnered with one of the biggest gym chains in the world has reached out and would like to use our vision system in all of their gyms all over the United States. A couple of the OEMs that manufacture fitness equipment, so free weights, but also the machines you see in gyms, they want to be connected to that equipment. They want to use what the approach we're taking, the digital supply chain connected to the consumer, and they want to be closed loop. So this is an opportunity for me to now, if you look, this is an opportunity for me to move to the next step, which is help guide digital supply chain globally. Okay. So I'm going to really focus on FullStrength.ai once I back out, not just FullStrength.ai, but focused on AI-based training tools. We're going to open a gym that leverages those same tools. Okay. So we're already designing the gym. We're going to create essentially a gym of the future. And then we're going to be able to show other fitness gyms and the OEMs, like companies like Rogue Fitness and stuff, on how this should work. Okay. And then we're going to integrate with the fitness OEMs. We're going to use technology from Industry 4 to integrate fitness OEMs, the people who manufacture the equipment, directly with the athlete, the weekend warrior. And this goes to us serving Americans around their health. This is to help save and create middle-class jobs. This is to help ease the pressure on middle-class Americans through decreasing the cost of healthcare by increasing the health of the average American. All right. Number two, we've bought a ranch out in East Texas. We're developing that ranch. Most of that ranch is going to be agriculture. There's actually two companies that are going to run on there. One is a heavy equipment company where we are going to integrate data acquisition tools on every single piece of equipment that we lease out to construction companies and ag companies. We're going to collect data off of that equipment, and I'm going to show John Deere and Case and these other ag companies what they're doing wrong. If you go and you look at the technology that's happening, if you go look at a new tractor that's manufactured by John Deere, they are connected to the equipment they sell, but it's siloed. That's why if you look at in ag, it's, everyone's either green or red. Do you run green? Do you run red? So what we're going to do at R3S is we're going to develop the open technology that farmers and agricultural producers can use. And we're going to do that by winning the results war. I'm not going to knock down John Deere's door and say, hey, John Deere, you're doing it wrong. Because they're going to tell me to fuck off. We're making a shit ton of money. So what I got to do is I got to do the same thing that I did in our industry. We have not made this movement. We have not made this change in the world by just standing and screaming from the rooftops. Okay? Microsoft can't argue against the results. So once you win the result war, Microsoft's got to change. And that's why they changed Azure. They had to. They couldn't stand there and lie to the customer anymore or make a case for the customer that didn't end up with the customer's best outcome. You couldn't do that. The results war is what matters. Okay? And then I'm going to be really focusing on the Bonnie Mae Austin Foundation, which is a foundation in my mom's name that we've had for 5-6 years. And we serve the victims of domestic violence. We raise money to send kids to college who are like me. My mom got murdered. My stepdad's the one who killed her. So she was dead. My stepdad went to prison. And what happens to those kids? What happens to me and my brother? I was blessed. My brother, he went the wrong way. I was blessed. I got adopted by his dad. And so many of the lessons I've taught you guys here come directly from my father. But what's in this brain here comes from the education I got. And if I hadn't been a great student, an exceptional student, I wouldn't have been able to afford to go to college. And so the Bonnie Mae Austin Foundation is going to be focused on that. And it is focused on that. We already have scholarships for kids, but I fund everything myself. I put the money. I've got another kid who's going to go to Texas A&M next year, and that kid we're picking up he's our newest scholarship student. And he's going to be going into engineering. And in fact, one of the greatest moments of my life was being able to tell him on a FaceTime call, when he was saying he wasn't going to go to Texas A&M because he couldn't afford it. And one of the greatest moments of my life was being able to tell him, you earned it. You go to the school you want to go to, you fucking earned it. And money should not be a consideration. And I will take care of it. Whatever you don't get covered in scholarships, whatever you don't get covered in grants, you will not borrow a penny. I don't want you taking out a single student loan. We will cover the difference. And that's good. That the big piece of my 50s and 60s is me affecting change that way as well. All right. Announcements. I hope I've seen all the questions here. If you have any questions, you can ask them. I will answer them. I just want to go through the announcements real quick. So for those of you, and then I'm going to go through a LinkedIn thread and then through a couple of YouTube questions. MES Bootcamp Accelerator starts next month. Those of you who are in Mastermind, you're in the bootcamp, but you have to opt into it. You have to say, hey, I'm going to take the bootcamp. So you should have received an email. If you haven't received that email, reach out to Josh, Zach, or Vaughn. Okay. And thank you, Paul. And Paul said, that's awesome, Walker. Appreciate it, brother. Hey, let me give Skellig a shout out here, and then I'll explain Accelerator. You know, what Amy Williams is doing, what Skellig is doing in digital media, what Amy Williams is doing on the life sciences side. She's going to be at the show. She's going to be one of the MCs at Prove It. Skellig is one of the vendor sponsors. I've had a chance to see what Skellig's doing. I had a meeting with Skellig's team earlier this week, and they're basically doing longitudinal analysis through the virtual factory. Okay. It's impressive, like what Skellig's doing. I remember the first time I ever had a conversation with Paul O'Sullivan. It was like who Paul is the owner and proprietor of Skellig. And Skellig primarily has focused in the life sciences industry, primarily as an Emerson Delta V integrator. And Paul and I met years ago. You know, and the first time we ever talked, it was a philosophical discussion about, I know I what you put on YouTube resonates. I know it's the right path. I just don't know how to get there yet. I'm forging, you know, and what Paul has done is spent the last 3 years. John McKeon at Galeris, same thing. He came from it's ironic they're both Irish, even though Paul lives in the States. You know, they have both built Industry 4 integrators. Paul, the more brave one, because Paul had a very lucrative, successful integrator that was, you know, on the cusp of Industry 3, 4. You know, life sciences is dead last in industries in terms of, you know, digital fluency. And so it was a gutsy move on Paul's part to say, hey, we're going to change our, you know, we're going to forego all these millions of dollars we make working with these companies, and we're going to take a risk, and we're going to make a bet on the future. You know, and all that's come in, now they're producing content because they have something to say, and there's a reason people should be listening to them. And so if you're not following Skellig on YouTube and you're not watching what Amy Williams is producing, I think it's every Tuesday, you're making a mistake. You should be watching their stuff and growing with them. Okay, because they're on this path. Okay, if you're in Colombia, and you know, if you're in the Spanish speaking world and you're not following what Dotom is doing, that's Natalia and Ivan. If you're not following what they're doing in Central and South America, and you're in the Spanish speaking world, you're making a mistake. If you're in the European Union and you're not following what Galeris is doing, you're making a mistake. I want to give a shout out to Paul because, you know, Paul's one of those guys who has made the investment, and he is a true believer. I've met a lot of people throughout this journey who said one thing but kind of meant another. You know, Paul, John McKeon, Ivan, and Natalia, they don't fall in that category. And there's many others who don't fall, you know, Michael Dowdell, and, you know, there's lots and lots of people who don't fall into that category of saying one thing but meaning another. They're true believers. Okay. Bootcamp Accelerator starts in January. If you're in Mastermind, please opt in. If you're not in Mastermind, you can take the Accelerator. What's going to happen is you're going to go through the bootcamp, except what you're going to have is Zach. He is going to facilitate you going through the bootcamp. So he is going to assign a video from the original bootcamp that we did for you to watch it, do the development in that video. Then you're going to come to the cohort session with Zach, and he's going to tell you the questions he had. Here's how he answered them. What questions do you guys have? He's going to facilitate it. And that's going to happen across 7 sessions in January, February, and the beginning of March. Okay. If you're not in Mastermind, you can take it. You can go to IIoT.University and sign up for it if you want to. If you're in Mastermind, you need to opt in. I've already gone over the Mastermind changes, so I won't go over that again. And on the Prove It updates, we are currently releasing all of the functional specification documents. You will see 3 more of those get published this week. 3 more functional specs. Please, I want to say 2 things. If you're a member of this community and you want to go to Prove It, please get your ticket now. We are running out of tickets, and we have not even done the push yet. Okay, so we have held off. None of the 36 vendors have gone to their customers yet. We have held them back from doing that because the moment they go, we will run out of tickets immediately. where the show 1000% will sell out. The venue has told us we are way ahead. They've never had a show as prepared as we are. They keep telling Josh, my God, I can't believe how far ahead you guys are. But how far ahead we are in the sale of the rooms. Nearly all the rooms are sold out at the venue, and we're over 60-70% of all the tickets are sold. And that 30% may sound like a lot, but when you think about the fact that 36 vendors are going to be going to their customers, we're going to run out of tickets, like with absolute certainty. So if you want to go, please get your ticket. Don't wait, because you guys are going to message me on LinkedIn and ask me to do you a favor. And we are capped at 750 people. We're capped. We cannot go over 750. And that includes everybody. Okay. And so we're only selling 500. As it stands right now, 63% are manufacturers. Okay. And our goal was 60%. All right. I'm going to answer Sardar's question. So it says, when calculating OEE, operators do not select the job they work on in real time. That's why we always fail in the performance calculation. How do we ensure they select work orders at the right time? The answer is you put in an inhibit. Okay. So you have to put in a confirmation. Okay. So what he's saying is, when calculating OEE, operators aren't selecting the job they work on in real time. Remember, in manufacturing, you have two types of, you have more than two. There's two primary types of control. You have engineering control and you have administrative control. Administrative control is policies and smacking people on the hand for not doing their job, right? And then engineering control is using technology to change the behavior, okay? So what you have to do is you have to sit down and you have to define your problem statement. Now, if you gave me a little more information, Sardar, I could probably actually solve the problem for you, okay? But what I will say is this. You need to sit down and say, we know what the problem is. The problem is that our performance number is unreliable because not all operators are selecting the active work order at the time that they should, okay? So then you have to ask the question, why do they not select it? Is it they're lazy? They're not trained correctly? There are people who, by the way, don't select it because they say, fuck off. Okay. But the vast majority, the non-cynical answer is it's a lack of training, or they have higher priorities. And the question is, can you train them more? And can you engineer out the higher priority? But the last one, and the one that you almost certainly have to do, is, can I engineer in the check? Can I make it so that they can't do their job without scanning? And I would love if Jared, my middle son, Jared, he works for Intellic Integration, and he's an engineer there. He actually just solved this problem, this very, very same problem. He was actually on site with the client. We had a whole conversation about it. He told me how he solved it. You have to go through that process, though. I laid out the process there that you got to go through. Zach, what if I have no automation or intelligence? How do I begin calculating OEE? Let's say it's a CNC machine with no intelligence or connectivity. Really simple. Okay. What you do is you start, what I would do is I would install an IIoT platform at that CNC. Okay. The three that I go to the most are Ignition, Frameworks by Tatsoft, and WinCCOA. All three of those you can land without buying licenses, and you can build an application. You build an app with the IIoT platform. You don't do it with Python. You don't do it with, some other development tool. You don't build it in .NET. You don't do it with C#. You use an IIoT platform. What's an IIoT platform? It's a platform for solving problems, okay, that connects, collects, stores, analyzes, and visualizes industrial data. That's an IIoT platform, okay? What you do is, instead of collect, okay, or instead of connect to devices, you're not going to connect. You are going to collect from human beings. You're going to analyze. You're going to visualize. Then what you do is you use that case. That data will be relatively unreliable, but when it is reliable, it will be valuable. And you use that argument for the ability to connect. Okay, our CNC machines have embedded controllers, but they have no MT Connect adapter. MT Connect is the primary protocol you use to talk to CNC. We have to justify the expense of the MT Connect adapter by going with collect, analyze, visualize, okay, or collect, store, analyze, visualize without the connect to the machine through an application on an IoT platform. Once I get permission to connect, I put the adapter on the machine, and then I map into the collection points that the human beings were actually writing into, and I don't have to do the analyze, visualize over again. It's a great question. Yes, Brian Pryby. So he's answering the just have the machine decide what the work order is. He's answering the initial question. So that would be the engineering in the check. And then Brian says, get machine state at a minimum. Sensors around the CNC can do a lot for you. MT Connect has a lot of connection you can do with various CNCs out there. I want to touch on 3 topics real quickly, and then we'll get out of here. I want to wish you a Merry Christmas and get out of here. Really appreciate it. I mean, we have a lot of people on here right now. I'm surprised. There's 60 of you watching a live stream we didn't schedule, which is kind of nuts. On a Sunday. Football. I mean, the kickoff is in 3 minutes. Or no, it was an hour ago. There are 3 topics that have been kind of all over the place. I want to talk about 2 of them centered around me. Okay. I'm going to talk about 3. Number 1 is we've been posting a lot of MES content. And I did the build versus buy debate. You're always going to build MES. Let me say it again, please. Okay. You are always, always, always going to build. Any other announcements? Let me see. Prove it updates, Mastermind changes, MES Bootcamp Accelerator. We're doing elections for the one last announcement. We're doing elections for the advisory board. So if you guys are in the community, you should have an email to cast your vote for those who are running for advisory board. And I will say one other thing. There's no other. I mean, unless I've missed one, Brian. Brian, if there's an announcement I'm missing, please put it in the chat. I'll see it. I just won't put it up, and then I'll announce it. I lost my train of thought. Hold on a second. The build versus buy debate, real quick. I posted a video and I said, hey, listen, you're always going to build, you're always going to build MES. What I really should say is you can buy a starter MES, but if you can't build on top of it, you wasted your money. That's what I should really say. And you could also build your MES from scratch. Advanced UNS Workshop. Yes, that's right. Advanced UNS Workshop is in January. That's the other announcement. So you can also, if you're in Mastermind, you will take Advanced UNS Workshop, and then if you want to take the Advanced UNS Workshop, but you're not in Mastermind, you can also sign up for that on IIoT.University. You are in fact always going to build manufacturing execution. Some people took offense to the fact that I said, if you believe that you can buy MES, and you think I'm wrong, why don't you come on the podcast so I can ruin your career? Okay. All right. And someone was like, oh, you don't need to talk that way. Yeah, agreed. I also don't need to eat Snickers bars. The fact is I do. All right. But it is calculated. When I get up on here and I use conflict theory, oftentimes what my goal is to try and elicit an emotional response that starts a conversation. And at the end of the day, I care about the conversation being had. And if you look at all over LinkedIn, there's a lot of people talking about the fact that I make this build versus buy conversation. It works. People talk about it, which is what we're trying to get them to do, because it's a conversation not enough people are having. There's another subject. I've been taking shots at SAP, right? I've been saying SAP is dumb. Actually, I don't think I said SAP is dumb. I just know that the the title of the video was SAP is dumb. Maybe I said SAP is dumb, but in my head, I don't think that. What I think is SAP tries to be everything to everyone, and therefore people lose sight of what SAP is actually good at. SAP could be an ERP node in an ecosystem. The problem is SAP tries to be the ecosystem. Okay, it does. If you're an SAP customer, does SAP, are they ever satisfied with just being master data model, sales order, manufacturing order, bill of material? Is SAP ever just satisfied with that? No. They want you to use their edge connectors. They want you to use all their tools. The problem is let me say this very clearly so there's no debate. Their OT solutions suck. They suck. Okay? Now, I will say this. SAP they put in a team that is turning that around. Okay? They put in a team that's turning that around. Real quick, Zach Vaughn, what's the name of the guy? I'm having trouble drawing his name. He's the guy who leads the OT business here in the United States. I had him on the podcast. One of Rick Bellotta's friends. They work together. What the hell's his name? I'm getting old, guys. Sorry. Vaughn and Zach will put his name in. I want to give him a shout out. Vaughn will know. He remembers everybody's name. Sam Castro. Yes. Thank you, Vaughn. So I do want to say that the work that Sam Castro is doing, at SAP is where it's at. Okay. Like what Sam's doing, Sam's taking them in the right direction. But if you believe that you can put SAP as the centerpiece of your business, okay, that is the centerpiece of your digital infrastructure, you are a moron. You are a moron. Moron. Okay? If SAP was elite, why doesn't Tesla use SAP? And the answer is this. Okay, the answer is this. Is that what Tesla was trying to do with digital infrastructure, SAP couldn't do. That's the answer. Okay. Wagner Rodriguez. Let's see here. In my opinion, using Ignition as IoT to build MES is the best strategy to avoid SAP to implement OT solutions. Amen. I mean, my opinion, if you're doing MES and you're doing MES for the very first time, you should try to build your MES in an IIoT platform for one asset. And here's why. Your organization is going to get so much smarter just going through that process. I mean, one of the first things we have to teach people when we talk about MES is what MES actually is and all the things it isn't. The fact of the matter is that MES, when done correctly, has some congruent functions that you would see across all MESs, like work order management, scheduling, OEE, downtime tracking, right? KPI calculations like mean time to repair, mean time between failure, TEEP, OEE, availability, quality, performance. Those are congruent functions. We call them the core four, and you see them across basically all MES systems. But then you have custom MES functions. Those are that are unique to a specific business, process, asset, cell, production line. Okay? There's no SCADA function that is custom. Supervisor control and data acquisition is always the same thing. 100% of the time. It's always the same thing. Manufacturing execution is not. So I've been talking a lot about that. It obviously offends a lot of people. Funny, it's the people who are selling MES that offends. Guess what? Tulip is known as manufacturing execution. And guess who agrees with me that you build? Tulip. Because they understand that even though you can offer out-of-the-box solutions, you better offer the capability to extend and build. Otherwise, the client's not going to be happy. And why does Tulip understand that? Because it's an operations platform. It's focused on the operator. Hell, CI/CD, continuous integration and development, is meant to be done by operators and technicians in Tulip, not some abstract IT member in some fucking boardroom somewhere, All right. The second topic was the SAP piece. All right. And then the third topic is, I want to address this. All right. And by the way, this pissed off a lot of people in Mastermind. So I want to talk about a topic here. If you, since the election that we had here in the United States, I've gotten it, we counted it, it's 51 requests. So 51 different people asked for me to comment on the election and what the implication would be on manufacturing and industry in the United States, in North America, and globally. Okay. I did not want to answer that question for a whole host of reasons, because talking about, there was no way to answer that question without having a conversation about politics. And politics, obviously, that's tribalism. That's what George Washington warned us about, the political factions. So, it's a minefield. You're going to piss people off. And also, I never answer any questions without telling the truth. So if you have me answer the question, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm going to tell you how it is. So we had a big, long conversation in Mastermind about the implication of the election. And here, I'm going to give you the nuggets. Okay. Yeah, we're going to see some tariffs. We're going to see tariffs on China. We are absolutely going to see tariffs on Mexico. We will not see tariffs on Canada from the United States. So for those of you who work in manufacturing, we are not going to tariff the Canadians. Okay. What President Trump is doing there is making sure that Trudeau, under no circumstances, is the prime minister in Canada. He's just making sure that Canadians vote for Poilievre. All right. So we will not see tariffs on Canadian goods. All right. That's not going to happen. It is going to happen in Mexico, though. And that came from, I am politically connected, and I got my answers from the horse's mouth. Okay. So it is going to happen. It's going to happen in China. We will see reshoring here in the United States. Okay. All right. So I was able to answer that without going into the political piece of it. A lot of people got pissed off on the political discussion, but I want to expand on a concept that I was talking about how the European Union is driving off a cliff. And why is it I would say that publicly? Why would I say the European Union is driving off a cliff? Well, the answer is because there's a lot of wonderful people who live in the European Union. There are a lot of middle-class people who live in the European Union where economically the European Union is literally driving off of a cliff. With each passing month, they are falling further and further behind the technological advancements that are happening in the United States. Each passing month. And then when you take a look at the just the raw data, the raw economic data, like debt to income ratio, not people, but countries. And then you look at policies that are coming out of the EU. And if you look at where quote unquote innovation is happening, and I'm arguing it's not happening in the European Union, it isn't happening. Okay. You make any innovative advance you show me is going to be the exception that proves the rule. We are watching in real time how planning economies, hybrid planned economies, fail in real time in the European Union. We're watching it happen. Okay. And the only thing that you have to know is if you go and you take a look at the amount that in the European Union, what they spend on social programs, you look at the debt of nations like Greece, and Italy, and Spain, and you look at the amount of money that has been lent out by nations by Germany, England, and France, it's unsustainable. And yet the innovation curve isn't catching up. It's not closing the gap. Okay. The European Union is driving off of a cliff. It's driving off of a cliff. And a lot of people got upset with me about that. And I really thought about this. Yes, Matt Paris. Let me see. This is a different subject, but Matt, I want to make sure. SAP is suffering from the same global domination of certain standards organizations. I'm going to come right back to that in context of this EU driving off a cliff. One of the things that we had this conversation about, here's a problem with SAP. SAP is a $50 billion organization. Okay, they're one of the 10 largest German companies. Okay, I think they're like number 3. They're fucking huge. Okay, and they're tightly coupled with the government. Okay, I'm going to answer Tim Winwood. Tim Winwood, I'll answer your question here in a second. SAP is being artificially propped up by the German government. And they do that through manipulating job bids. And, the German government's really, really active in the expansion of manufacturing. If you want to start a company in Germany, there's a lot of great content online. I actually follow this one German tech guy. He actually produced a bunch of content proving like how hard it is to start a business in Germany. And while he was living on social services, he was trying to start a company. And it took him a year before he got denied. Okay. So for a year, this guy wanted to innovate, clearly a brilliant guy. He's a tech guy, wanted to innovate. He spent a year. I'll share it like on my Twitter. I'll share the guy's channel. I'll share it on my X account. He spent a year getting paid by other taxpayers, okay, to try and open a company that the government ultimately didn't let him open. Craziness. In all the content he produces is mocking the German government. He's a German guy. Okay, I'm not picking on Germany. I'm just saying the European Union isn't flexible enough to catch up to technological advancements. I mean, look at what their reaction to AI was. Look at what their reaction to artificial. You saw OpenAI just announced the vision capabilities, right? Wait till you go to prove it and see what we're going to be doing with generative AI interacting with the unified namespace. We're going to talk to a bot that's going to tell us all about our factory. Okay? And what are they doing in the European Union? They're trying to make that next to impossible. And how are you going to compete if you're a manufacturer? Look at Volkswagen. Just go Google Volkswagen economic data 2024. The European Union's driving off a fucking cliff, man. And apparently by me saying that, it pissed off all these people in Mastermind. And we got more 1s and 2s. It was still 2-1, 4s and 5s in this last session, but we got more 1s and 2s, and they cited the fact that I beat up the European Union is the reason. If you live in the European Union and you're not like, what the fuck is going on? You're the problem. Who's the major competitor to SAP in the EU? Answer, no one. Who's the major competitor to Dynamics 365, Microsoft's Dynamics 365 in the United States? Oh, I don't know. 1 of fucking 20? Look at what Google's done over the last 3 years because of all the competition we have here. Because we don't have the U.S. government, funding Microsoft and funding AWS, and not that they don't get federal dollars in certain places, but the U.S. government is not a partner of Microsoft. It is not a partner of AWS. It is not a partner in Google. So Microsoft, AWS, and Google are all competing against one another. And because AWS was kicking the shit out of Microsoft Azure in IIoT, Microsoft Azure had to fucking throw the option out the window. They had to throw the whole thing out the window and start over. And Google was like, not percent of the market. So then they built MDE from fucking scratch 3 years ago. And now Google, if you want to look at capabilities, Google is number 1. And it's not even close. Google Cloud Services is number fucking 1. And I'm going to explain that and prove it. Why? I'm going to talk about how Google Cloud Services is constructed and how MDE plugs into it and how, when you get into the project scope of all their Google Cloud services, there's no integration needed. It is self-aware. Once I land data into the project layer, all of the other tools within Google Cloud Services are self-aware. So if I land a CSV file in block storage, it is accessible in Looker Studio Pro as long as they're in the same project scope. There's no connection needed. I can literally open a terminal, fucking write a little Python script to move the CSV in as a data source in Looker Studio to visualize it. You cannot do that in Azure. You cannot do that in AWS. You got to go S3 and then connect to Kinesis. You have to make explicit permissions and connections. But that competition is what created that. And that isn't happening in the European Union. Okay? But all these people got offended. I don't care you got offended, but at least be right. There was a guy who commented on the SAP is dumb video who was like, hey, this guy just watched an SAP video and then he published this video and talked about how SAP was dumb. And my reply to him was, no, this fucking guy worked in the industry for 26 years, has done digital transformation for 14, has won 2 Firebrand Awards, developed an architecture, has worked with thousands of customers all over the globe, has seen all the times clients have been dissatisfied with SAP because they were sold a bill of goods. They believed SAP could do things it couldn't do. Seen it with my own fucking eyes. The difference is SAP doesn't own me. They can't pull business from me. They can't use money to manipulate me. And the German government has no control over me. So I'm going to come on here and tell you the fucking truth. And then I'm also going to give anyone from SAP the opportunity to come here and prove me wrong. And when Sam Castro from SAP joined our podcast and came on Mastermind, he didn't prove me wrong. He earned my respect. But in the end, he had to acknowledge that everything that I said in the beginning was right, but they were working on it. Okay? The claim of SAP salespeople. We have a lot of engineers. When you work with an integrator, you follow their mindset. If you work with us, you'll have the best solutions. Prove it. Prove it. It's not true. Tim Winwood, let's answer this question here. Walker, what are your thoughts on ThingWorx and does it fit into the UNS philosophy? All right, this is going to be a painful one. Okay. ThingWorx will die. You heard it here first. ThingWorx will die. So I'm going to say it. I love PTC. I'm disappointed in PTC's leadership. All you got to do, I mean, Rick Bellata has talked about this quite a bit on LinkedIn. Rick was one of the guys who originally built ThingWorx. PTC has allowed ThingWorx to languish. ThingWorx should be much further along than it actually is, but technologically. When they came out with manufacturing apps in 2018, what they've developed along the MES layer from 2018 to now has essentially been nothing. The thing is still the center of the universe, the thing object. So that's digital thread. Okay. They just try to use the ingress of the digital thread to be the thing object from the historian. Okay. What PTC did with Kepware, I think they've made the right decision over the last year to kind of let Kepware do their own thing. But if you look at PTC's earnings calls, they don't even mention ThingWorx. I think in their last 3 earnings calls, they haven't mentioned ThingWorx. ThingWorx was my position was ThingWorx was a dashboarding platform. That's what that was never what it was intended to be. It was intended to be an IIoT platform. When Rick Bellata and that team were originally developing ThingWorx, they had the right philosophy. PTC took it in the wrong direction. And what really killed PTC was the Rockwell partnership. What killed ThingWorx was that $1 billion partnership with Rockwell. Rockwell basically spent $1 billion with PTC to make ThingWorx the Rockwell Innovation Suite. And the moment that happened, Rockwell was in complete control of the development of ThingWorx. So I'll give you the one sentence answer to your question, Tim. Lost opportunity. Raphael, what's your take in Siemens? The PLCs are still a reference, but the ecosystem is still outdated. All right. Of the big three, Siemens is the furthest ahead. Okay. Let me say that WinCCOA is fucking legit. It is a legit IIoT platform. There's nothing you can do in Ignition you can't do in WinCCOA. There's nothing you can do in frameworks you can't do in WinCCOA. WinCCOA is a legit IIoT platform. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and say, you already know what the problems are with the legacy technology with Siemens. Okay. You already know what those problems are, right? I mean, they still use like XMLDA services, out of their motion controllers and stuff, which really doesn't make any sense. Okay. There are some problems at Siemens around the legacy technology. They did two things that were really, really smart that Siemens did. Okay. Number one, they broke out. There's a big conversation about Odoo happening. I'll talk about Odoo here in a second. They broke out the future of Siemens as like a separate focus, and that's kind of where WinCCOA and Mendix live. My pleasure, Tim Winwood. Tim said thanks for your insight. Siemens has done a really good job of moving their Industry 4 initiative away from the sphere of influence from the existing business. Okay. Hold on real quick. I gotta. Sorry, I'll just give me a quick. I have to answer a message. Sorry. The Siemens did a good job of breaking out their Industry 4 offerings from the existing sphere of influence of the legacy business. And what they've done with WinCCOA is awesome. Downsides of WinCCOA, yes, you can get it in your hands. You can download it and use it and try it. You got to jump through a bunch of hoops because, Germany, because of the German government, their tariffs and all that stuff. Every time software from a software company inside of Germany goes outside of Germany, you got to fill out a form and all that. You got to jump through some hurdles. And the learning curve with WinCCOA is kind of steep because it's developed by engineers for engineers, right? But I mean, that's the German engineering philosophy. And honestly, I don't think there's anything really wrong with it. I'm a big fan of Siemens. I really am. And I've been saying this since 2018. But they are still a legacy company. But if you look at what's going on in Germany, Siemens is the furthest ahead of the curve. How do you manage to connect with legacy Yokogawa DCS OPC DA, which is still sold in 2025? We use Kep Server EX, and then we do data ops. Then we bolt HiByte onto Kep Server EX, and then we use HiByte for the data transformation in the data ops layer. It's a good question. And yeah, I think it's appalling that it still exists. And let's talk about Odoo really quick. So Odoo is an open ERP system. I think it's developed in the Netherlands, or it's a German, or it's a European company. I think it's in the Netherlands. I absolutely love it. The problem is that at an enterprise level, Odoo is completely open, extensible. Couple of like just basic problems with it. When you install Odoo and you buy your license, you basically pay for your license for a year. Let's say it's for one user. And then Odoo will allow you to add another user. It'll allow you to add 5 fucking users. It won't tell you that you're about to be charged like a couple $1,000s for those users. It's in Belgium. Yes. Thank you, Brian. They don't tell you that you're about to be charged several $1,000s at the end of the billing cycle for those users. So I think that's kind of shady. I think it's kind of fucked up. I did talk to their CEO about it, like why it is that way. And it had to do with the fact that they've got so many users and they don't have a huge team. So they can only touch a handful of their customers. So they have to give the end users the freedom to be able to add users and licenses easily. It's kind of a convenient answer, but it does pass muster, right? So I don't like that. At the enterprise level, Odoo, the CI/CD component for Odoo at the enterprise level, so that is longitudinally across plants, is kind of problematic. But I love Odoo. I really do. I love it. All right. And then one last thing, and then we'll call it. I didn't mean to be on here so long, gang. I guess that's it. Any other questions you guys want me to answer? Was there another question in here I missed? All right. That's it. Wait, the Prove It conference has a gap in the ERP layer. It does. Who would we like to see in ERP in 2026? I want to see Epicor, because Epicor changed their technical strategy and their go-to-market strategy to being a node in an ecosystem. They've greatly expanded their API. Epicor is on the come up. If you look at the group that's leading it, the new CEO, the CEO and COO came from, I think, Oracle. So, all right. With that, gang, thank you for joining me on a Sunday. I know I touched a bunch of topics. I think what we'll do is have Zach and Vaughn, they'll pull short snippets out for the really important stuff and publish those as separate videos. But I want to let you know that I'm going to shoot some other MES videos before Christmas, and those will come out as part of the 12 days of MES. But you won't see me again on camera until after Christmas. So with that, like, subscribe, comment down below, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you. Merry Christmas.